Ukraine has ordered 100 Rosomak multi-purpose armored vehicles, which are made in Poland under a Finnish license, Poland's prime minister said on Saturday. I bring an order placed yesterday by Ukrainian Prime Minister Denys Shmyhal for 100 Rosomaks that will be fabricated here, Mateusz Morawiecki said during a visit to the Rosomak manufacturing site in the southern Polish town of Siemianowice Slaskie. The order will be financed through the funds that Poland has received from the European Union and US funds that Ukraine has received, he said, without providing details or the overall cost of the contract. The United States and its allies have provided Ukraine with a host of funding and weapons after Russia invaded its pro-Western ex-Soviet neighbor in February 2022. The Rosomak is an 8x8 multi-purpose armored vehicle manufactured under license from Finland's Patria. Since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine last February, Poland and other NATO countries close to Russia have led the push to provide Ukraine with modern military gear. Poland pledged it would send 4 MiG-29 fighter jets to Ukraine, the first NATO member to do so, in a significant move in Kyiv's battle to resist Russia's onslaught. President Andrzej Duda said the planes, from about a dozen that it had inherited from the former German Democratic Republic, would be handed over in the coming days after being serviced. When it comes to the MiG-29 aircraft, which are still operating in the defense of Polish airspace, a decision has been taken at the highest levels. We can safely confident that we are sending MiGs to Ukraine, Duda said. Warsaw has taken a lead among NATO allies in supplying Kyiv with heavy weapons. The announcement that Poland will send the Soviet-designed planes marks a step beyond the rest of the alliance commitments and could put pressure on other member states to do the same. Other NATO members have been reluctant to move forward far beyond the decision earlier this year to send tanks to Kyiv, and the US insisted that Poland's move would not force Washington's hand. Speaking at a news conference in Warsaw with his Czech counterpart Peter Pavel, the Polish president expressed the two countries' joint backing for Kyiv. The Czech Republic and Poland are countries that are in absolute vanguard when it comes to supporting Ukraine, both in humanitarian and military levels, President Duda said. Poland had been one of the most vocal European nations against Russia, even before the invasion of Ukraine. Russia is still seen by many in Poland's political and diplomatic circles in a Cold War context. Putin has always been seen by Warsaw as someone who cannot be trusted, and Russia expansion is something to be fought against at all costs. It is one of the few NATO countries that by law is required to meet its 2% of GDP defense spending commitment and is an active member of the European defense community. Sending MiGs is not an unexpected move for Poland and complies entirely with its membership of NATO. It might change the dynamic within the alliance, acting as a catalyst for more countries to do so, or upset countries that are opposed to NATO getting more involved in the conflict like Hungary. The biggest question will be if it puts pressure on the United Kingdom and the United States, which will then do the same for Germany. Ultimately, creating this pressure on other allies was probably Poland's intention. The White House said Thursday that Poland's decision to send the fighter jets is a sovereign decision that won't spur President Joe Biden to send F-16 aircraft. It doesn't change our calculus with respect to F-16s, said John Kirby, a top official at the U.S. National Security Council. These are sovereign decisions for any country to make, and we respect those sovereign decisions, he said, adding later, they get to determine not only what they're going to give, but how they're going to characterize it. I wouldn't think it's our place to characterize Poland's decision one way or another, Kirby said, declining to endorse the decision. Biden, who said earlier this year that he would not ship U.S. fighter jets to Ukraine, won't be swayed by Poland's decision, he said. A planned ring exchange in which Poland would send tanks to Ukraine and Germany would replenish Poland's supply did not materialize. Instead, Poland's army procured tanks from the United States and South Korea. According to newspaper reports, Poland has now 249 Leopard A4 and A5 battle tanks and can hand over some of its older models. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz announced his country would provide 14 Leopard 2 tanks in January, bowing to intensifying international pressure, led by the United States, Poland, and a bloc of other European nations, which called on Berlin to step up its military support and commit to sending their sought-after vehicles. The announcement was matched by the United States, with President Joe Biden saying that he would provide 31 M1 Abrams tanks to Ukraine, reversing the administration's long-standing resistance to requests from Kyiv for highly sophisticated but maintenance-heavy vehicles. I'm convinced the decision about the Leopard delivery to Ukraine will be taken shortly. Sławomir Debski, the director of the Polish Institute for International Affairs, told the newspaper Dziennik Gazeta Prawna. America has given the green light, he added. I am surprised the Germans are still trying to block it. The political damage is enormous, and they're gaining nothing. The editor-in-chief of Rzeczpospolita, Boguslaw Charbota, warned that if Berlin doesn't change its mind and the armaments are not supplied to the beleaguered country, the fires of war will flare up on Poland's borders. He somberly concluded that Ukraine will be the first victim, the second will be neighboring Poland. In addition to tanks, Ukraine has also been pushing for the US to provide fighter jets, arguing that it needs the planes to defend against Russian missile and drone attacks. But that push has been met with skepticism by US and allied officials, who say the jets would be impractical because they require considerable training and Russia has extensive anti-aircraft systems that could easily shoot them down. US and European officials have previously told CNN that F-16 fighter jets were impractical in this situation. Germany ruled out fighter jet deliveries to Ukraine completely, while UK government officials echoed the sentiment and said they believed it was not practical to send jets to Ukraine. Alleged spy ring. Meanwhile, Polish authorities said 9 people belonging to an alleged espionage ring had been detained, suspected of collaborating with Russian Secret Service agency FSB. Interior Minister Mariusz Kaminski said those detained were foreigners from across the eastern border. The suspects conducted intelligence activities against Poland and prepared acts of sabotage at the request of Russian intelligence, the minister said. Kaminski revealed that the prosecutor's office charged 6 people with espionage and participation in an organized criminal group. The court decided to pre-trial detention of the 6 people, he said, adding that prosecution proceedings are pending against the 3 detained on Wednesday. Evidence shows that the group monitored railway routes. Its tasks included recognizing, monitoring, documenting transports with weapons delivered to Ukraine, the minister said. The suspects were also supposed to be preparing for sabotage activities aimed at paralyzing supply of equipment, weapons, and aid to Ukraine, Kaminski continued. Poland fears Russia. Poland considers Russia's February 2022 invasion of Ukraine an existential threat to its own security as well. If Ukraine were to be defeated, Russian President Vladimir Putin's forces would be on Poland's border. Ukraine must win, Russia must lose is a common slogan in Poland, but in Germany, some politicians can quite bring themselves to say it. On a visit to Berlin a few days ago, Morawiecki warned that a Ukrainian defeat could be the prelude to a third world war. There is a broad support for military aid to Ukraine across Poland. According to a survey published by the IBRIS Institute in December, 77.5% of respondents favored sending Ukraine military assistance. Not only has Poland taken in millions of refugees, it has also provided 300 armored vehicles to Ukraine, including more than 230 Soviet-manufactured T-72 battle tanks. In December, the newspaper Rzeczpospolita cited the Kiel Institute for the World Economy in reporting that Poland has supplied 1.82 billion euros or $1.98 billion in arms and military equipment to Ukraine, putting the country fourth behind the United States, Britain, and Germany at 22.86 billion euros, 4.13 billion euros, and 2.34 billion euros respectively.